How we doing, everybody? Hope you guys had a happy Thanksgiving. We're getting back after it today. So, real short lesson today. I want to go over a few notes, just building on what we were discussing last time. I think it was Tuesday because we had our grant projects. Good job on the grant projects, by the way. I liked them. I thought you guys did a really good job with it. So we're going to move on today, just finishing the notes. Expect a quiz, I'm thinking here Thursday. Maybe, no, Friday. Okay, I will put out the study guide tomorrow. I will go over it for Wednesday, and if you have any questions, please reach out to me. And then Friday, we will have the quiz, okay? I will put it on as a Google form, same as always. And yeah, it won't be too bad. But usually I give you 24 hours to complete. I mean, since it's going to be on a Friday, I guess you have till Monday. But anytime after Monday, after that class period, I guess that would be, let me check what date that would be. The 14th. Yes, the 14th. So please check out, that quiz. Make sure it's done for the 14th. If not, then, oh, no. It'll be the 7th. The 7th. Okay, yeah, it'll be the 7th. So that's when that test will be due. It'll be due by the start of the class period, so make sure you have that completed. 7th, uh-oh, Pearl Harbor. Look out. Okay. All right, so let's go over some of the notes for today. Oh, if you haven't done so already, I'll make an attachment to the announcement. And please turn in your vocab terms. I want to give you a grade for that. They've been done for a long time now. So I will have those vocab terms, as a reminder on the bottom of the announcement, so you can turn those in. I can give you credit for it. And yeah, usually I have a quiz with that, but for this chapter, I guess we'll just go through it and finish up with the chapter test at the end. All right, so we're picking up where we left off with political parties right now, and how their participation in politics with federalism, okay, and how we can maybe have that balance of power to make sure that one political party doesn't become a monopoly, right? And with federalism, that kind of balances that power, even though, let's say, one political party has control at the national level, right? We'll go over some examples of that here soon. But I'd like you guys to check out page 112 to 116. That's finishing up the chapter, okay, chapter 4 within your book, and that just describes what we're going over with federalism and politics. So make sure you check that out. Read over that section there. It's section 4, chapter 4. So please check that out. So you're more familiar with it. Obviously, I'm going to go through it here. It's just, obviously, it's not all the information, but for the most part, it's covering everything that you'll see on the test. All right, so we talk about federalism and politics. We talk about sunset laws, okay, and how that we have the local, national, and obviously state levels where that's balanced, and we have concurrent powers, delegated powers, right? Okay, and reserved powers, and other delegated powers. We have others like expressed, implied, and inherent. So make sure you guys remember those. Those are very important for the exam that I like you to know. There's a graphic organizer out that you can use to help you with that. We went over that. Might have been last week, 2 weeks ago now. So please look at that and review that to make sure you know what powers are given to what. The state, national level, and if they're shared. All right, so with the federalism, different laws and policies can arise, and just review real quick, can arise from local levels, national levels, or state levels, right? And it's dependent, right? There's many cases where a policy or law can arise from a state level, like we saw with Georgia, with the 26th Amendment pushing voting age to 18. And at a national level, they accept it, they review it, and they look over it and say, you know what, that works out pretty good, and we can apply that to the whole nation. And I think that's, in most cases, that's kind of how it goes. But in other cases, with the national level, they might push out a policy or law, and many other states could have an issue or struggle with it. For example, here at the bottom, what we described last time we're in class, just to review quick, with 1950s and 60s, with segregation, how to end that civil rights movement, okay, Civil Rights Act and law, and how that was really hard for the southern states to accept. And in many cases, these policies that are pushed out by the nation might not be suitable or might not be agreeable with all the states. And that's one example of where at the national level, they'll push out a policy or law that the states really might not agree on. And same thing with states. I mean, if they push out a law or recommendation, for example, right now with COVID-19, with restrictions on areas within the state, like with restaurants or, let's just say with education, limits on people within buildings, whatever it might be, right? That might be a little different from what we see in Philadelphia or Harrisburg compared to our rural areas here in northern Dauphin County. And let's face it, I mean, we might not agree with that because our population isn't near as dense as what we see in those urban areas. So these restrictions, maybe some of these limits on restaurants or local areas, it might not be agreeable for people around here in these rural areas because it doesn't make sense, right? We don't have the population near as what we have in these larger areas, so we might not accept it. But in any case, that's what federalism. There's issues with it, and there's pros and cons to everything. But in that case, federalism at a state, local, national level, there might be some current concerns with that, and I think that's a good example. All right, so federalism and political parties. So rival political parties are key elements of democratic government. Obviously, right, each political party has a chance to win an election. And then with federalism helps maintain an equal possibility for any political party to win the election. Okay, so this will try to limit any type of monopolization of one political party where they can pass and approve of their whole agenda without any opposition. Okay, especially with this last election, it was like the nation was split in half, right? There's a lot of arguments and issues over some concerns and agenda and political platforms where if we have one leader, let's just say at the national level, right, at the state levels, it might be a different issue. Okay, it might be a different political party that has control, which will not affect policies in that certain area or that location near as much, right, and won't give all the power solely to one political party. Okay. All right, so one good example of this would be the Democratic Party controlled the White House for 5 to 12 presidential terms between 1952 and 2000. Right. And interesting enough, after in 1832, all the way up until the start of World War One. Okay, that's almost near 80, 90 years. Okay, where the Republicans actually held the national level, the presidency. All throughout those times of Reconstruction, right, through the Civil War, okay, it was just more focused at a national level that the Republicans controlled that office. And it just showed that, you know what, the Democratic Party wasn't favorable at the national level, but they still had control and pushed their policies and agendas in states, like in the southern states, right, especially in the Civil War era with Reconstruction, all the way out through the early or the late 1800s, beginning of the early 1900s, these southern states were really affected by the Jim Crow laws. Okay, and that just shows the policies, the agenda of the Democratic Party in these southern states. They're still favorable in the southern states, so that allowed that balance of power with federalism. Okay, and that's how these political parties. I mean, let's face it, it just doesn't show that there's a strong monopoly, right, of one party at a national, state, local level. Okay, in the southern states during the time of Civil War, Reconstruction, yeah, the Democratic Party controlled it. Right, it was more favorable, but at a national level during that time, it was more Republican. Right, and it just goes through waves, right, through certain times depending on what's in need and what needs to be developed. Right, maybe they need more progressive movements. Maybe we need more of a stronger military during a time of war, whatever it might be. Okay, and political parties might be more favorable at that time. All right, so political participation. All right, oh, there you go. So federalism increases opportunities for citizens of the United States to participate in politics. Obviously, with elections, okay, every 4 years, not only for the national level, but the state level, okay? And then we have legislators being voted on with state level and local level every so often as well. So that gives people the ability to vote and to participate in government. and their voices heard and their opinions heard, and not only at a national level but state and local level, and have constant elections to see who's going to be in office to represent themselves, okay, and their interests. And that's very important with with how federalism works for the people at each level. All right, so many opportunities. Okay, so because federalism provides for several states or several levels of government, people have easier access to a political office. All right, so this gives the ability for someone to run maybe for a township supervisor, right, of their local area, maybe a school board member, okay, of their local area, and then maybe that will build and move up to a state and district representative, who knows, okay. And that's what federalism gives the opportunity for people to hold offices and represent the people more as they are building maybe a reputation or a strong resume of what type of offices they hold of representation for people in local, district, state, national level, right? Okay. And federalism allows that opportunity for well, more opportunities for those people that you might not see in other countries, right? Or other maybe democratic societies, even. Okay. It gives a stronger possibility of people to serve in office. All right. So, federalism's professional politicians. So, a large increase in federal programs in the mid 1930s called for an increase of bureaucracy. Okay. Bureaucracy is just a way of many people that are hired into a position and make decisions based off of maybe it's agriculture, maybe it's education, maybe it's something with safety protocols to establish for many states or local levels. And bureaucracy is just an organization of government, okay, of administrators that make decisions based off of what maybe science expresses or shows. And in the 1930s, especially during the time of the Great Depression in the United States, bureaucracy was needed, especially with agriculture, to try to help farmers safely create different types of or different ways and techniques of trying to preserve the environment. Okay, obviously at the time there was an oversupply of food, so they needed ways of trying to restrict that to make sure that we don't really saturate the market and cause prices to drive lower and lower to a point where there's going to be a lot of issues occurring because of that. There's many other instances with USDA, right, with preservation of food and Meat Inspection Act, obviously even before that during the Progressive era, but being more infused into society a little bit more when we get to the Depression. All right, but bureaucracies, they're people, they're government officials, administrators that are hired to try to make decisions based off science and how they can really apply those decisions, right, into the people's lives, and they don't have to be voted in. Okay. Safety, health, right? There's many different cases where people aren't voted in; they're just officials that are hired for that program. All right, so federalism's professional politicians, mayors, state officials, and others took advantage of the new federal programs and began to work more closely with federal officials. So, for instance, organizations like the United States Conference of Mayors, so how mayors can come together in these larger cities to make decisions and really be on the same page of what might be going on in, let's just say, the world or the nation or the state, right? In many cases, Pittsburgh and Philadelphia get together, these mayors there, and Harrisburg maybe, and try to make decisions on economic means, education, right? It might be something with, especially now with the pandemic, how they're going to try to deal with maybe trying to lower the amount of people that are infected during these times. And maybe it's restrictions, maybe it's just policies to try to help stop the spread, whatever it might be. Okay. And there's organizations of governors as well. Very similar case, how these mayors come together and talk and discuss certain objectives of what to do and how to move and what direction. Okay. And governors, especially today, they get together. I know Governor Wolf and of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York governor come together and try to just solve the way to try to stop the spread of COVID-19, and that happens often in these local regional areas. And I mean, with people traveling, within the states, many people might live in PA and they work in New York or they work in New Jersey or Delaware or Maryland, right? That happens often. And with that, some of these restrictions might not work for these people because they have health care, they work in a certain occupation, and some of these things need to be talked about and discussed. And some of these governors have to get together and discuss these issues. And with federalism, that gives that the possibility for these people to get together and discuss these certain issues and problems. Thing with, business, industry, education, welfare, social reforms. Okay, it might be something with location, with immigration issues. Who knows? Environmental impacts, right? With California always being constantly hit with, wildfires, whatever it might be. With federalism allows real economic political difference among the states because it permits each state freedom in arranging its own internal affairs, right? Especially with Florida, these states along the coastal line, maybe into the Gulf, with hurricane relief, right? There's many cases where these states have different funding towards different things. Especially like with PA moving out into the Midwest, we might not be impacted as hard as these coastal states by hurricanes or natural disasters. So these states have to maybe look into a way of try to fund in order to rebuild in these times of weather inclements or in these times of devastation, right? All states are different with that. Okay, and we all know that. With federalism, that allows the local level, state level to assure safety for their people and preserve funding or possibilities of help and benefit in these certain times. And that's one example, right? In other cases, Pennsylvania, especially with education, they push for that and in many ways more than other states. Business industry, right? Especially fracking, whatever it might be, oil. Okay, in PA, we're more accepting of it than maybe other states like California or New York. Okay, there's many instances where industries and different types of policies, I guess you could say, of economic means might be different in states depending on their beliefs, and that's what federalism allows for these states, for the people to make decision of what they want within their state, what kind of job opportunities, what kind of influence they should have with social programs. Okay, and others might not be more wanting of those types of things. It's dependent, but federalism allows that. All right, and we just talked about that. We discussed that with how states can do that. So, the direction of federalism from the beginning of our country, there has been a debate on how the country should divide governmental powers between the national government, state governments, and with that, some political parties might have a designed stance of whether or not the national government should have more control or whether or not the state government should have more control. But in recent years, recent decades, Democrats have generally supported and favored nationalistic position. So that the national government should be more involved in the people's lives and how that should be maybe more beneficial for the people if the national government is more present, okay, in people's lives. And Republicans favored states' rights in recent years, right? Not all the time. Many people have a different belief. Maybe they're more moderate, but lean a little bit more right on the spectrum. But in many cases, we have Republicans, Democrats, okay, in their stances. But Republicans have favored states' rights and prefer relying on the judgment of the states and local authorities rather than the national level. Right, so a little bit more loose that the national government should not be involved too much into people's lives, that the local authorities, local government should have more of a say in what goes on, especially in this time right now with COVID-19. I think that's really where we see a conflict of interest here, where government officials, what impact that they should have in the people's lives. And many people that are Republicans view that the national government should stay out of people's lives and that the local authorities, local government officials should make decisions. And in the Democratic views, right, in recent decades, not all the time either, many people are different with their viewpoints, but mostly Democrats now want the national government to be more present in people's lives and try to help and assist them through these hard and tough times. All right, and that's it. So I like you guys again read over page 112 to 116. Check out Federalism and Politics, and we will be having a test here on Friday. So I'll be posting the study guide tomorrow. I'll be reviewing it on Thursday, and then test Friday. All right, so if you have any questions, please reach out to me, and we can maybe set up a Google Meet if you like, or you can email me, whatever suits you the best. All right. Oh, and again, please turn in your vocab terms. I'll make a post there on the announcement and make sure that we're on the same page with that. All right. Have a good one. Take care.